Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed by the guests and hosts of this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the company or the show itself.
Some places don't just remember the past. They keep it alive.
It's retribution, Jim, for the unpardonable sin.
There are secrets passed down through generations, meant to be forgotten, and there are powers waiting for the right person. 14-year-old Piers Ralston thought he was getting a simple after-school job. He was wrong. He has awakened an ancient force, drawing a hidden syndicate that sees him not as a boy, but as property.
Pike, it's a pleasure. I'm sure you're tired of hearing that you're the spitting image of your father when he was your age. Even the emerald eyes.
No, not really, of course. But nice to meet you.
To survive, he must master abilities he never knew he had. He must learn his world is only one of many, and he must run a race he didn't enter, a hunt for a living treasure. His name is 𝘰𝘰𝘭𝘥𝘦𝘹, and his destiny is written in gold. The Golden Codex, written by William Sandberg. Available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other digital bookstores worldwide.
Well, welcome back, Explora Bookworms. My name is Red. I will be your host for today, and you're tuning into our segment called Explora Talks. And this is where we spotlight, authors or the grit and the hidden gems of the self-publishing world. Now, our today's guest, you've seen his, interview or video probably in the past for the upcoming London Book Fair, but today we're going to be talking about his book again, because he just recently republished this book it's basically making the book better, than what it was before, and doing some editings as well in some parts of the book to make it definitely smoother than what it was. His name is William Sandberg. You probably seen his video, like I mentioned earlier, and he's an accomplished computer scientist, a mathematician with over 36 years of experience in the cryptography and computer security. And beyond his professional career, he is a passionate writer, dedicating late nights, early mornings, and weekends to storytelling while balancing family, hobbies, and work. So today we're going to be talking about the inspiration pretty much of everything, which is the Golden Codex series that this book pretty much began in his late teens and was shaped by a metaphysical fiction and literary giants such as Kafka and some other Latin American magic realists like Garcia Marquez and Borges. So after a year of mentorship and life demands, William returned to the writing, and pretty much with a renewed purpose, inviting readers into a world where ancient wisdom meets speculative futures. So, like I said, welcome again, William, to our segment for today. I'm really happy to see you again. Before we begin, I guess let's start to have a little bit of introduction about yourself, just to kind of remind everyone about who you are, and just tell us about yourself and maybe your journey as a writer.
Sure. Writing is something that I've always been fascinated by throughout my life. It wasn't my livelihood, though. As Red was just telling you, I worked more in the computer science and computer security, mathematical models of computing systems, proofs of mathematical proofs that systems were secure, or finding out where the problems were. And that sort of occupied front and center much of my time. But I always had an interest in writing and in literature. As a teenager, I loved science fiction. Uh, and as time went on, I grew more into the appreciation of uh, different kinds of genres in literature. Fantasy became a big item. I was very much impressed with Tolkien and his trilogy of the Lord of the Rings and so on. Uh, but there were an awful lot of just standard writers that I enjoyed reading. One of the things when I was a university student, I had a job in a library, in the university library, in their rare book department, where they had big vaults where they kept these very old books in temperature control and so on, humidity and all that. And I was responsible for retrieving manuscripts for people. We'd have people from all over the world, scholars who were interested in a manuscript that we might have had in the back. And so I would have to go into the vault, and then there was another vault that led me into a big room full of manuscripts and find the box. And I would take out a few pages that they had requested that some author had written. And that was where I encountered first the writing of, oh, now my mind is blank. uh, Malcolm Lowry. Yes, sorry.
Oh,
The
okay.
writing of Malcolm Lowry. He wrote a famous book called Under the Volcano
Right.
about living in Mexico as an alcoholic. And it's a very serious book, but it's one of the great books of the 20th century. And his widow gave the manuscripts and all his work to the university library where I was. And I had to take these manuscript pages and bring them to the scholars to read. Because of that, I was handling this very special manuscript with his writing, his typing. I saw how he actually wrote the book. You could see it on the page and the galley proofs and all the things. And so in the course of working there, I got to see a lot of his work because I had to retrieve it and then put it back. And it was my first lesson in how to write a novel, was to look at his pages. And then later I read the book. I went to the library and got the book and read it. So that made me aware of there's a process in writing,
Yep.
and you don't get it right the first time. You may have to change things. You may add things. You may stroke off paragraphs and get rid of them. But it was very useful. Later on, I studied with a professor of writing for 3 years because I was serious about writing fiction. And he was a British writer named Michael Bullock. He taught me a great deal. Um, and his area of interest was surrealist writing, writing that surrealists in France and England and Europe were writing around the time of World War II and before. So I learned a lot from him of how you go about, again, writing a novel or a piece of fiction. And I guess throughout those many years in between, I started getting the ideas for the Golden Codex and what I would put in the book. What was it about? What were the characters like? Some of the things were just sort of visualizations I had of scenes, and these turned into chapters. I put the chapters together, and it grew and grew until it was a novel. In fact, it was three separate novels. And so an editor decided, why don't we split it into three novels because it was very long. And so the first part of that long manuscript is the Golden Codex. and that's the book you can get today. So the writing of the book was, I would say, 5 or 6 years anyway, although I was really writing 3 novels, one after the other. And then the first publication was in 2018. And since then, I more or less put it aside because there wasn't that much interest in the book until very recently.
Uh,
Apparently, it's become red hot. And like I just found out today, I won an award. I mean, the book won an award
right.
from the
But
Pacific Book
mhm,
Review. And so I was very happy to hear that.
mhm.
Um, and it's just enjoyed a lot of interest and success very recently at this point. I guess that in a nutshell is my career as a writer.
Well, that's definitely something that I guess everyone is also, or most of us, or most of the writers out there are experiencing. There's definitely a certain um, steps or journey that we need to follow before we can, complete that manuscript. You can be a writer
Mhm.
overnight. You can be an author overnight. You need to work on it. Just like what happened to you, you basically started with something smaller, or with by just looking at or reading Lord of the Rings, stuff like that, and that probably
Yeah.
create a spark or interest in your mind that, okay, I'm gonna be a writer. I want to be an author like this person, like the author of this book, stuff like that. And then you saw that manuscript raw. I believe that was a raw manuscript of Malcolm, right, Laurie? Was
Yes,
that
it
a raw
was.
one?
Yes.
Wow.
It was, yes, it had his handwriting on it, everything. And he typed it up, but then he would write things in it. And so you could
That's
see
amazing.
directions, and yeah,
Hmm.
it was just as he was imagining it, you saw what his mind was doing. Yeah.
Right. And probably with that raw manuscript, you saw everything right there, like how things he removed from this paragraph, from this sentence, correcting words here and there. That's the process of being a writer. And I was about to ask you that. Was there any kind of situations like that where you have to really um get some kind of an opinion or feedback or yeah, what, like suggestions from other people, like, hey, what am I gonna do in this particular chapter, in this paragraph? you know was there a
Yes,
time
I,
that it
I would
happened to
say
you?
yes.
Hmm.
Yes, I definitely you need input from people. If you have friends who are willing to read it, or people in your family who are willing to
Right.
read pieces of it and give advice. Uh, Sometimes I would go to writers' groups where everybody reads a bit of their current work in progress, and everyone takes pot shots at it and tells you that was good, or this sounded a little too heavy, could you lighten it up? Things like that. And it was very good to get other writers' views, and
Yeah,
it helps steer you in the right direction.
exactly. They might have some ideas that would might be better than what you have right now, and that
Yeah.
that can improve the book that you're working on. And yeah, getting some feedbacks from the audience, from your friends, can definitely help you, especially when there's a situation when you get to experience what they call the writer's block. Like you don't know what to do next. you know so it's a problem that might take about couple of months or weeks. I don't know, like, how long will it take you to remember what to do next? So getting some kind of inputs from your friends can really help you out to move forward, because again, you may not be too close to finish that manuscript yet. You need to continuously working on every chapter, every the storyline. So yeah, getting some inputs is really a good thing. But was that Lord of the Ring thing, or was that Malcolm that really inspired you to you know write this
It,
book, or to become a writer?
I
I can
wouldn't
put it that way.
say, yeah. Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that it was a direct inspiration. I enjoyed the reading the books and experiencing how a reader becomes a part of the imaginary world of the writer. We
Right.
all enter into that magic realm, whatever it is that the writer
Right.
has prepared for
Mm.
us. And so I thought, yes, it's something that if you're serious about it, you have to learn how to do that, how to invite people in,
Right.
not so much in some explicit way, but word by word, sentence
Right.
by sentence,
Uh-huh.
you pull them in and you try to create interest on every page if you can. That's the idea. And use your whole imagination if you can. Much of the book was almost like automatic writing, in that I didn't really know what I was going to write until I sat down and did it.
Wow.
And, and then, but I had to prepare myself. I had to
Right.
visualize what the scene was, visualize the characters, get to know them. And then a lot of that came from this teacher I had, Michael Bullock. He made us learn how to do that. We had to go to his house and do exercises with him there on imagination and just letting the words flow out. And I have to say, it was very effective training, and it's what I used to create this book.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, now I haven't heard about that kind of thing, by the way. But if you can share to me, like, or to our audience right now, can you give us an example of that, training thing that you guys are doing, were doing that time?
Yeah, sure. There were a lot of things. We had group exercises. So there
Uh-huh.
might be a group of his students. We'd be sitting around a table and we would write a sentence on a piece of paper, then pass it to the person next to us. And they would write another sentence, but they couldn't look at the previous sentences, just the one before it. And so they could tie in what they were writing with the sentence just before it, but they had no idea what the beginning or it looked like.
Wow.
And so we created the story that would wind through all these people. and,
Wow.
and it was pretty weird and wonderful. But
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that loosen up your mind and get you going,
Yeah, you
to
got to be
do this so
creative.
that when you're on your own. Yeah, yeah. It was very imaginative work. And what I found I had to do is think cinematically, think about everything that's happening in that scene or in that chapter and rehearse it till you've got it down and you know what's going on in so and so's apartment, what's going on in the hallway, is somebody knocking, are they answering through the door, does he open the door, all that stuff. And then once it's clear in your mind, you just start writing and write and write and write until it's all down.
Wow.
And that's sort of the way I have to work. I see it first and I meet the characters. Sometimes they seem to come up to me as if they're auditioning for a job in my novel. And I'm dialoguing with them and I think,
Yep.
no, I don't think I can use you. You're pretty good, but you just don't fit. Sorry. Or others, yeah, I'm going to give you a try. And I'd write that character in. But you can't write too many characters
Oh,
or the
yeah.
whole thing, the boat sinks and it tips over. Too many characters.
Right. And there's gonna be a possibility that you may not remember the other character anymore. Like you forgot about
That's
that
right.
character.
You do, yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, yes,
so
very much.
yeah, and what's gonna happen is that once you're finished with the book or with the manuscript, once you read it back, that's when you realize, oh, I missed this guy. Now I'm gonna have to redo the whole thing. It's
Yes,
a
it
problem.
can happen.
It's a
It can
problem, yeah.
happen.
But what is your let's just say for this book, Will, who is your who would you say is your target audience for this?
I would say it's it's not so much young adult as a mature person. I mean, it could be a young adult who is very mature, but it doesn't, I don't think it has the hooks and the interest
Right.
that a teenage or a person maybe 20 or 24 years old even. I don't know. I think probably as you get into your 20s, you can read this book and it's fine. But it has a vocabulary that's challenging. I've had people, very intelligent people, say I had to put it down because I just there were too many difficult words, and I took that to heart. But to the best of my ability, I had to put what was there. You know what I mean? I just had
Right.
the intuition and the feeling. But yes, it takes a mature reader. It doesn't mean that you have to be uh, a follower of James Joyce, like Finnegan's Wake or Ulysses, where the whole book is almost incomprehensible. It's not like that. And I
Hmm.
try to stay away from very hard, prose. But uh, I'm trying to catch a very particular sense, motion. Um, where are we going? What's the goal? All these things I try to make sure. And so that does force you to slow the pace down in the book.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's got to be somebody reading it who can move with the pace and not want to race ahead too much.
Right. So this book right now, well, you have like how many series is available right now in the market for the audience to purchase or version? Yeah.
Well, yes, the versions of the book, well, we have the electronic versions like the Kindle and then there's a paperback version
Mm.
and a hardcover version as well.
Hmm.
And I think all of those, the pricing's been set and they are available, I believe, on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other sites that where you can buy books and in bookstores, hopefully.
Right.
Uh, and at some point, the rest of the series will appear. I'm not sure when, I can't really predict, but I'm going through revisions now on the second novel
Oh, so you're
in the
working on it.
series. Yes, yes, I am. It was basically written maybe 8 years ago, but
Wow.
it needs revision, and I'm going through that now. So I'm getting that
That's
ready.
wow. So that's how long it took you to finish this second, series of.
Yes, the second book, I have to say I decided to perhaps it was the pandemic and other things like that where
Mm,
really everything sort of slowed down in the world and
right. Right.
interest in things like this would have you more or less got the idea, gotta sort of wait until this is all over. And then it took me a few years to get revved up again to look at revision work because it's rather hard and it's not as much fun as the first time. You're now being very critical. You're
Right.
reading your work and saying,
Right.
no, I don't agree with that anymore. I have to
Right.
change that. You know how it goes.
But this is like a sequel of the first book, right?
It is.
Okay.
Yes, it is a
I just
sequel.
want to
Yeah.
make that clear as well. For our audience, of course, they might think that's a different, series or
No,
type
it
of
has the same, yeah.
same
It has the
title,
same main character. Yeah,
main character. Okay,
everything.
all right. Well, there you go. I mean, for those that are watching this videos right now, or the video right now, or this particular video right now, well, don't forget to check William Sandberg's website. Well, I just checked this website earlier today. Well, and it's becoming better and better every day. I mean, this website of yours is pretty much available for those that are having access to the internet worldwide. Anywhere you are in the world, you can always access this. You can learn and know more about William Sandberg or about the book and the upcoming books in the future in his website, and that's going to be William-Sandberg.com. And I mean, all you got to do is, that's on your screen right now. Just follow that, and you should be able to, check his website. And, some of the books will be available soon in his website too, in Amazon, in Barnes and Noble, just like, the usual retailers that we have, or book retailers that we have, in America, in Canada, or wherever you are in the world. But one thing that I would like to also ask you, Will, now there's a chance that some of the writers right now tends to think that there's a lot of challenges that they need to overcome, and one of that is basically like creating a real life experience or a real life scenario and translate it into a sort of like a fictional character or scene. But was there a chance that you basically included a real life experience in this book and turn it into something really, magical or out of this world?
Yes, I would say there were a number of chapters that sometimes it was a place that I worked when I was 14 years old.
Mm.
There's a cellar in the first chapter of an old antique store, and I described this cellar. It's full of all bric-a-brac and old wooden crates and things with coal lying around and an old furnace that's being unused. Well, I worked in a place like that when I was 14 years old,
Mm.
so it became a model for that particular chapter where Piers Ralston, the protagonist, is a 14-year-old. He goes down there and he starts creating works of alchemy and magic. I didn't do that, of course, as a 14-year-old. I had to
Right.
sort old pop bottles, but
Uh,
but it
so
was a
this
beginning.
book, pretty much sort of like a Harry Potter kind of thing, like magic
Yeah,
stuff. Oh, okay, that's cool.
it is full of that. It is, yeah.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
on.
it's
Sorry.
full of yeah, it's full of many unusual and you could say magical
Mm.
transformations that take place, but it's in the normal world as well. It's what some people call grounded fantasy, where it's grounded in reality, but you're seeing a little more of another feature of the world that we don't usually
Right.
recognize.
Right.
And so if the reader is oriented that way, then it gives them a kind of entry, like they've been there, they've seen that, or they've
Right.
had those feelings, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's something that we always need to like. When I'm reading a book, I always imagine that I'm part of that book, and if you are creative enough to really make me be part of that, you know, storyline, then I don't think, I need to really worry about reading your book. And well, I've seen the book. I had it. We basically brought that book to London Book Fair. And we wanted to also say that there's a lot of audiences during that time that really wanted to know more about the book. And, instead of like talking about the book directly to them, explaining to them what the book is all about, we just gave them a little bit of what it is. But we said, like, okay, contact the author if you want to communicate with the author or the publicist, and so that they can give you all
Sure.
the details of the book, because, the marketing team decided to not to talk about a lot about like the book, as we might, you know, uh, make a mistake for that part. But we have, we have the idea of the book, which is really interesting, you know. But do you have any like favorite chapter in this book, by any chance? And why
I
is that?
think probably yeah, I think probably chapter 2 is one of my favorites because it talks about this alchemical transmutation where he creates a golden codex out of a black stone that he finds
Mm,
in a pile of coal. And I think it's certainly one of the moments in his life that transform his life and give it a direction. Maybe not the one he wants, but it's what he becomes saddled with, and he has
mm,
to make the best of it.
mm,
And he even excels at doing this. So later on, there are many other chapters, I would say. I mean, I've traveled around a bit in Latin America to Mexico, Peru, other places, and I have chapters of those places like Mexico City or the city of Cusco in Peru. And
oh,
so
okay.
I used that as experience to write those scenes. It was very convenient to be able to describe these cities and have the action going on, not just in one place all the time, but different areas, and, a different perspective.
Right. And I mean, you've been there as well in those places, right? So it's
Yeah.
it's easier. Yeah, that's a good thing about being able to experience that particular scene or location that you're trying to set up in this book, because you know how to explain things uh correctly, and that also helps the reader to be, or helps you as well to make sure that you can make that reader or make us be part of the book, because you experience it and now you're just simply explaining things to us in writing. So that's I would say we can definitely feel how genuine your content is if you know and you've been in those kind of places. But talking about this newly republished book, right, Will? What made you decided to republish this book? And I mean, aside from really adding maybe more text in it or editing stuff, but what really decided you to do this republishing? And why do you think it's
I felt
necessary?
that
I think I'm also I'm forgetting that part. Why is it necessary? Because there's sometimes an instances that authors that don't want to republish their book because they said, "Oh, it's there now. It's available in Amazon. I published it like 2001. It's there.
yeah.
I don't need to republish that. It's the same content. Why do I need that? Why? What do you think is important? Well,
Well, I think that it was probably, as you say, not necessary, but it gave impetus to publish not just the book, but succeeding books, giving them a similar format. So
mm,
that there's a series of books, and they lead one to the other, and it just seemed the right thing to do. To bring it out again. There were things that I wanted to change, and these are only things like typos and
mm,
or table of contents that had the wrong
right.
page numbers and things like that that irked me. And I thought,
Yeah, yeah,
okay, time to fix this up.
right.
I really don't like it when I read a book and it's
Mm.
got errors in it because
Oh,
they act as an irritation. So I corrected those kind of things, but not the main concepts at all, or the wording or anything. I
right,
tried to stay close to the canon, what was there,
right.
just get rid of the errors that
Typos. Yeah,
somehow escaped all the editors the first time.
yeah. It can happen. Like even if like you as the author of that book, you might think, oh, it's perfect now. Go on, guys. Let's get it out. And then later on, you realize, oh my goodness,
Yes.
Spelling errors, spaces, it can
Yeah.
happen, periods,
Yeah.
commas, you name it. It can
Yeah.
happen. And it may not look a lot or obvious, but I mean, yeah, it may not look obvious, but once you start reading the book, that's when you realize that, oh, now I'm not understanding what I'm saying here because it doesn't have the right punctuations. It doesn't have
Yeah.
the question mark. The character is trying to ask a question, to the other character. Now it's not asking a question. It's just, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are the things. It may look small, but it plays a crucial part in the book. And,
Yeah.
readers, if they notice that there's a lot of errors in the book, they might think that, oh, the author doesn't even care about this book. Why should I care reading this book, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a process pretty much in the publishing world, wherein sometimes we feel like we have the perfect manuscript, and
Yeah.
and you might realize that in the later part of the process that, oh, I've made a lot of mistakes and I don't like this picture here, this scene here, this about the author, the book synopsis is awful, and now I'm gonna work on it and make it better. And the cover design, for example, it's outdated. Your book was published originally 2001, just an example, right? And right now, what year it is, like 2026, right? So the type of audiences that we have right now, pretty much, like you said, you're targeting, let's say teenagers at some point, but, or young adults, right? And those young adults way back in 2001 are kind of like oldies right now. Now, the young adults is more on much colorful, or let's just say new design kind of stuff. So you need to change that cover so that those young adults in this generation will also appreciate your book. And I guess that's a thing. That's the process that we need to also accept, that generations are changing, and they might also change their taste in what kind of book are they gonna pick up in a bookshelves. But anyway, um, probably another thing that I would like to ask, Will, are you currently working on any other books aside from the Golden Codex?
Well, I'm just working on the second book that follows it, and there's
Right.
a third book as well.
Okay.
Uh, there will someday, I hope, be a fourth book that will
Oh,
complete the
wow.
series.
Okay.
And so that'll be written further on after I've published the next two books.
Wow, that's a
But I
lot of
think
work.
it's realistic. It is. Yeah, I'm sort of a perfectionist when I go through my own stuff, and um I don't want to release it until I know it's finished and ready for the public. So I try to take a lot of care and attention to the details. But
Well,
yeah, those are the
that
things
means you
I'm
love your
doing
work.
right now.
Mhm. Go on. Sorry.
I do, yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun for me, you know. Sounds crazy, but
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned earlier, it's that's how the publishing or the writing process is. You can't finish a manuscript just for one night or 2 days, for example. Just in reality, because I've been writing my own book. It just my own story anyway. So I mean, I can't even finish. I don't know how to end it. That's the thing. That's the problem that I have at some point. But I keep on getting some insights or recommendations from friends, like, hey, don't worry about it, don't think about it. It's just one thing that that might happen to you, and you'll be able to figure that out. And I've been working on it since like pandemic, actually pre-pandemic time, and till
yeah.
now I still don't know if that's a good one or not, because I haven't checked the whole thing yet. So it's a process, you know. There's definitely a long journey for that, and you can just, you know, like write a story and then, okay, I want to publish this. That's it. We're good. No. But anyway, um, what would you give? Like what kind of advice would you give to those aspiring authors out there, Will?
I would say that you should pay a lot of attention to your central character and those characters around him or her,
Mm,
uh, and make it very much oriented towards their development and their character arc, like how they change through the book, because readers are looking for that change or that evolution of their inner
mm,
feelings and just their soul as they change, as they go through adversity and conflict. How do they meet that? How does it change them? And if a reader can see that happening, then they will identify with it because they'll compare what happens to that character is something that they've had to go through. It could be anything, it could be a loss of a friend, or it could be the death of a loved one. All these things that come to try us, we we become stronger and we go on and become richer. When we look back, we realize that we had to go through all these things. And so, how do you capture that? How do you make that something that readers will recognize, even if it's a work of fantasy? Because, in my opinion, all novels are really fantasy because
yeah,
they're not real people.
yeah.
They're characters that you've made up
You
in
made
your own
up. Yeah.
imagination.
Or maybe that
So,
came from an original, let's say, an inspiration from someone that you met, you know, in real life, but you still need
mhm,
to change that his character and add some additional, you know, characteristic to that person, so you know it doesn't really look obvious that it's that person. And yeah, you're right.
that's
No,
correct. Yeah.
it's a work of
No,
imagination.
yes, you have to be inspired by others around you, other real people who might be idealistic or they might be negative, they might be depressed. All these things. Look at the people you've met and try to understand what happened to them to make them the way they are.
Right.
And if you are successful, that will flow into your own characters, and they won't be uh, like comic book copies of the people around you. They'll be rich and hopefully very realistic, and readers will be able to relate to that.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you, Will. Now, before we um well, yeah, before we go on with the last question that I have here, Will, kindly invite your audiences or readers. Do you have any activities, anything that you are going this coming days or weeks or in the next few months or so? You know, how can they communicate with you if they wanted to communicate with you? Um, like, do you have socials maybe, or just a website? You know, something like that.
There is a social media site and a website. These are fairly new, and
Mm,
I'm not totally uh, conversant with all the features. I know we have a lot of things to fill in, things like
right.
blogs and
Mm,
so on, that I will have to get busy and write.
yep.
So that'll be happening. I see it maybe in the next month. I'll try and populate it. There
Okay.
might be artwork, like I don't know, you can't really see it, but there's a
Yeah.
poster I made
Oh,
for
you made
the
it.
Golden Codex. Yeah, I do a little bit of artwork, and it's hard to
Oh,
see what it is,
right,
but
right.
it's like a golden engraving of this
Yeah.
Golden Codex that, and
Okay.
you can't really see the whole thing, but Anyway, I
It's
might
all
be
right.
putting things like that on the
Mm,
website. I don't have them there now,
okay.
but we'll see. As time goes on, little by little, we'll be adding more. And then news about the next novel when it may be ready.
Right.
Um, there's still lots more work to be done on that.
Well, yeah, I mean this website of yours, I just noticed that it's fairly new. So yeah, there's still a lot of I would say tons of things that needs to work on this thing. But yeah, I mean, if you guys wanted to communicate with Mr. William Sandberg, you can definitely go to his website, right? That's right in front of your screen right now. And all you got to do is go to the contact section or page, and you can simply click or put in your information right there, and it will automatically send an email to the author, Mr. William Sandberg, just in case you guys have any kind of personal questions that you might wanted to throw. Now, yeah, my very last question here for you today, Will, is that what would you wanted to, or like, what kind of message or good things that you want your readers to get out of this book, the Golden Codex? Like once they stop reading or completed reading the whole series, for example, or a sequel. But let's just start with the one that is available right now. Like, what do you hope that readers can take from this book?
I think what I'd like to see a reader take from it is that though we may be thrust upon with adversaries, conflicts, and problems that are thrown our way, even when we're young, as we're growing up, as we're becoming adults, we find ways to transcend that and to go beyond it. And it doesn't matter if you're working in a magical universe or a completely phenomenal physical universe, the way a scientist might view it, a materialistic view. Doesn't really matter. We're always challenged with things, but that we can find ways to carry on and move forward. And we can find allies and friends who help us along the way, because that's what happens in this book.
Right.
The hero finds helpers and friends and allies who come in and will stick their neck out for him. And so I would like the reader to see how that
Mm.
happens and to feel that we're not in a universe that's against us, but there are many agents and helpers around that can contribute to our own success.
Right. That's true. And it's again it's how the life is, Um, we started with something that we basically started as, an individual, a solo, traveler. And as we go on, we meet new, faces, and that's where we started to have new friends, and that's how we learn new things that we haven't learned from our parents. It's just like the book, that you share to us right now or today. It's how it is. And I guess uh we just have to enjoy this journey. It may be difficult, different kind of adventure. We might have a different kind of obstacles that we need to, you know, surpass or experience, but it's a matter of enjoying it. There's a lot of good problems right now in this world that, you can maybe think about, but why not think about something good that can make you feel better? Anyway, but yeah, like it's for me, it's just how I take life as well. Instead of thinking about those problems, I'm just gonna have to enjoy it. But of course, there's always a time for me to figure out how to solve these problems. Because once you are able to solve it, that makes you feel better as well. But yeah, I mean, I want to say thank you again, Will, for giving us this time. I mean, I haven't noticed that we've been talking for almost an hour now. Oh my goodness. I mean, I would like to ask more, a lot of like there's still a lot of questions here that I prepared for you, but I guess I'm just gonna ask that to you next time once we get to meet, personally. But yeah, thank you so much again, Will, for your time.
Oh, I've enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and keep discovering books that can possibly move you or, give you a lot of interest to be an author or a writer. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, or visit our website, www.explorabooks.com. Until next time, goodbye.